All right, guys, we are getting you prepared for everything you need to know about the 2023 NFL Draft coming up here in 20 days. Maybe a little less because it starts a little bit earlier. So less than 20 days. And there are a lot of players to keep an eye on when it comes to changing your team's fortunes.
I think it's in 22 days.
Is it 22?
Well, it's on a Thursday. A week is 7 days. It's got to be more than 21 days.
Figure it out. Figure it out.
You know, just saying.
Either way, it's coming. It's coming, and it's coming fast. And it's our job here in the Action Lab to get you prepared so that you know who's who and what to look out for. But we are going to be breaking down wide receivers and corners tonight so that they can join everything else that we've done so far. We've already covered quarterbacks, we've covered edge rushers, we've covered running backs, and we've covered what was it? Defensive.
We got
defensive tackles.
We did tackles and edges.
Tackles and edges.
We still got like tight ends and linebackers and safeties and O-line.
Yeah.
O-line.
So we have a lot to cover in the next 22 days. So we got a head start. By the way, guys, go check out our other breakdowns of the other positions. I'm uploading last week's and these ones tomorrow. So make sure you go check those out. But diving into the wide receivers, number 8. Trey Palmer, wide receiver of Nebraska, 6 foot, 192, runs a 4.33 40. We have a player comp here to Lee Evans.
Do you remember Lee Evans, Chris?
I do remember Lee Evans, but it's been a while since we've even heard that name.
The great Buffalo Bill, Lee Evans at a stretch. I love Trey Palmer, Chris. I'm probably higher on Trey Palmer than most people.
Yeah, probably.
Listen, here's the guy that set the record for receiving yards in the history of Nebraska last season. It was only 1,043, Chris, but that was 39% of the entire Nebraska's offense was through Trey Palmer, which was
a lot.
The highest share of any single player outside of quarterback, of course, with throwing in the Big Ten. He had the highest share of yards for his team in the entire Big Ten. He's 6 foot. He's decent size, not tall, but not little. 4.33 speed, so he is a guy that certainly can get you over the top. He needs, at times he gets a little, like if you're talking weakness, he lets balls hit his chest a little too often. Like, got to use your hands. Don't let it hit you in the chest. And he needs to learn to get away from some physical corners. With his size, he had a little trouble separating. Like he played against Witherspoon, who we're going to talk about on the corner side a little later, and struggled a bit in that game. But he's dynamic with the ball in his hands. He can stretch you deep. He can do a lot of your end arounds, stuff like that, jet sweeps. He's a talented guy, and at 4.33, I think he's being underrated in this draft.
Yeah. By the way, good night, Riley. Hope you have a great night. I will be posting all of our clips, even the one chip challenge. So hope you feel better, and we will catch you on Sunday. And anytime. Also live tomorrow for Thursday. I know Riley's not into that NBA show as much as some other people, but. Good night, Riley. Have a great evening. We will catch you next time. Thank you for all the support.
Good night, Riley.
Yeah, he didn't produce that much prior to 2022, but he had a breakout year, recording 71 receptions, a little over 1,000 yards, 9 touchdowns. He did really, really well at the combine, and he's a little bit lower on some other people's boards. I think projected round as early 3rd round all the way up through the 5th potentially, depending on how many teams value him in this draft. But overall, he has some interesting tangibles that I think can really shine as maybe a value pick for a team that might be, kind of trying to find a little bit more at the middle rounds. By the way, can we talk about this, Scotty? Can we talk about a theme of the wide receivers in this draft? There's a lot This is like the smallest wide receiver draft on the planet.
Especially like the higher the guys at the top.
Like
a lot of little guys.
There's a lot of small dudes in this, and excuse me. I wonder, like, the NFL has changed. The NFL has been definitely, with the rule changes, protecting players. Like, before, you drafted big wide receivers, knowing that they needed to protect themselves going over the middle, knowing that the rules weren't in place for them. Like, you had to get big guys that could hold their own going across the middle. Now it's like, with the rules protecting a lot of these smaller, the wide receivers, smaller guys that maybe a little bit more elusive, maybe a little bit more speedy, maybe put them in the slot, put them on the outside, whatever it may be. You got Tyreek Hill, who's a smaller receiver. You got Cooper Kupp, who's a smaller receiver. You have a lot of these guys that are actually being more productive. And I think we're looking at a smaller wide receiver league. I mean, I don't know if it's because of maybe the wide receivers in this draft are just, this is an anomaly and there's just a lot of smaller dudes in general, just particularly for this draft as opposed to like the next draft or whatever. Or if it's going to tend to go that direction moving forward with, a lot of wide receivers across the country being smaller. I don't know. But what, you have any thoughts? I mean, these are some tiny dudes. I mean, we got a lot of Cooper Kupps, a lot of T.Y. Hiltons in this draft, Scotty.
Yeah, a lot of smaller slot guys. I don't think that's necessarily where the league's going. I mean, the league's been there for a bit now. Like, it's undersized guys you can utilize, getting them out in space, and if they're shifty and great route runners and getting open, but you need both. I mean, you got to have the guys that are. I mean, listen, if there was a Jamar Chase, someone like that in this draft, they would easily be the number one wide receiver in this. And to be honest, there's not a super blue chip wide receiver in this draft. I don't think any wide receiver in this draft will go top 10, maybe not top 15. I think you might be looking at like late teens possibly for the first wide receiver to go off the board in this draft. So it's not the best wide receiver draft we've seen, certainly in the last few years. There's a lot of great talent there, but like the wide receiver talent in prior years has been so deep and so good that like this one just doesn't, it pales in comparison a little bit to prior drafts. But yeah, I think it's just a this year thing, Chris. I don't think moving forward, I think it just depends on the dudes. You still are going to have, like this next guy we're going to talk about, he's a big bodied, he's more of your, jump ball guy.
Yeah. So yeah, just some takeaways, guys, that, you might want to keep an eye on for just trends while we go. There are some tiny dudes. Like, there are guys that are like 170, 175 in this draft, like my size. And I'm just like, okay, all right. Like, I mean, they got the muscle, whereas I don't
think you'd fare well getting hit by somebody in
let's just say I probably wouldn't be able to I probably wouldn't be able to manage that. But hey, it is what it is. Next up, Cedric Tillman coming in at number 7, wide receiver, Tennessee, 6'3", 213, 454, 40. You got a player comp to Josh Gordon. As you mentioned, this is one of the bigger wide receivers we have on our list as of this draft is concerned. So with that being said, Scotty, let's break it down. What do you have here on Cedric Tillman?
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of what you'd expect. Unfortunately, he got a little beat up and injured this year at Tennessee, so we didn't get to see everything. He tried to fight through it, but didn't play all the time. But he's 6'3", 214 or 213, Chris. He's your jump ball guy. He's not necessarily someone, large catch radius, can go up and make a play. We comp him here to Josh Gordon, but I also saw a comp, Chris, that you might be more familiar. Well, not that you're not familiar with Josh Gordon, but Cortland Sutton is another comp I saw out there as far as just a guy that maybe doesn't separate a ton, but you can throw it into, when he's covered up and he'll still make a play on the ball. Wasn't asked to run a ton of routes at Tennessee. So, it's kind of wait and see on what, how his route running is ability wise. Great footwork, really good hands, sure hands. So if you're looking for a guy, red zone guy that, you can throw a ball up to, or even just down the sideline, back shoulder type stuff, this might be your guy.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, he's one of the bigger, stronger guys. I mean, he's had 37 receptions, 37 receptions for 417 yards and 3 touchdowns. He missed a good amount of time with injuries, but got back on the field in October. So he's gone under the radar, but could have nice value. Maybe the second day of the draft. I think he's projected around, second, maybe third round, depending on how things end up panning out for certain teams. But basically one of the more physical receivers. He's a force at the catch point. He gives his quarterback a big target in the red zone. I think there's times where he is going to be slowed down, getting pressed off the line a little bit, and gets tripped up by, some of the bigger defensive backs. But overall, I mean, given the fact that this wide receiver class is like all little dudes, he might be a guy that you want that stands above the rest. Hi-yo. He may literally stand above the rest. But
I see. I was like, what am I looked in the chat as if something had happened.
No. Yeah. Amongst all the little guys, he stands above the rest. But I mean, overall, he is smooth footwork. His frame, he's pro ready. He's got the body for it. Like you said, sure hands. So, I think that, from that standpoint, if you're looking for size in this draft, you might want to target Cedric Tillman. And this is Rex guy. So this guy is essentially Chase Claypool. Let's hope his football IQ is somewhat better than his.
I mean, Rex, shouldn't you know him? He went to Tennessee a little bit, but also just shots fired at Chase Claypool.
Yeah. Like Claypool was big and huge. Like, his talent alone is worth 2 first picks, but he has the football IQ of a fucking potato.
Let's just say he has he's not exactly polished upstairs. But you know what? He's polished he's polished when it comes to playing football a little bit more. So, but here you go.
With Tillman, I didn't get to see much of him because, again, he was injured, and even when he was playing, I was working most Saturdays, so I couldn't see him.
Yeah.
Like when I saw, big guy.
Well,
big guy could go over the top. I'm worried. I'm a little bit worried though, because the receivers where their main strength is like jump balls, they don't do good in the NFL.
I think it depends on the scenario and who your quarterback is and who kind of what's around you a little bit. But I mean, if you're a guy that doesn't get into the red zone very often and you can't go up for some of those, I think that, I mean, it depends on who's throwing the ball in some of these circumstances, right?
Rex, what was Plaxico Burress? I was trying to think of a Steeler.
Yeah. I mean, Plaxico Burress, he was a little bit, he could get up and go, but he had a little bit of speed. Yeah, I was just thinking, over the last maybe decade, players where their main strength is just 50-50 balls do not pan out.
Well, the number 1 wide receiver drafted in the draft last year was a jump ball guy in Drake London. And I know he didn't have, a great season for Atlanta, but Atlanta didn't also have anybody throwing the football, so we'll see.
Yeah, he gets kind of a pass on that, but we'll see what happens later on.
Chairman Calvin Johnson would like a word. Calvin Johnson was a freak though. Calvin was more than just a jump.
He could get those jump balls, but he was a lot more.
Yeah. All right. So next up, number 6, we have Josh Downs, wide receiver, North Carolina, 5'9", 171, 4'8". This is my size, but guys, this is. I mean, I'm almost 5'10". I'll go put myself on the high end of the 5'9.5". I'll put myself at 5'10", and I'm about the same weight. He's got a little bit more muscle, but I mean, we got some small dudes in this draft. We got some small dudes. You have a player comp to Elijah Moore. And with this, I mean, Downs totaled 83 receptions, 929 yards, 11 touchdowns in 2022. Played well for the Tar Heels. Could be a dangerous slot receiver in the pros. He could be a second round, depending on how people see him and how the draft kind of pans out. second day or mid-round pick in the 2023. So between rounds 2 and 4, he could drop a little bit further, but very, very speedy. The thing with him is what we've kind of talked about. He's very undersized, but very productive. He's brings twitchy, kind of change of direction skills, short area quickness, sure hands, very, very smooth footwork. I think overall he is very, very productive pass catcher that could separate as a route runner, win at the catch point. He adds to the special teams value if you want to throw him back there for kicking, get some punt returns, some kick returns. I think he could be a very value there as well in a couple different areas, which helps him make those rosters in the NFL. But I think with his short, small frame, he may be viewed as only a slot receiver. Scotty, what are your thoughts on him in this draft and how like a smaller dude can fare?
I love it. Chairman's like, a little bit more muscle. He said it with a straight face. Well done.
I mean,
you did do it with a straight face. But,
I don't know.
So, well, yeah, incredibly well done. Listen, these next two guys that we're going to talk about, I think a lot of draft pundits are higher on than I am. They're similar in what they do. This guy ran 83% of his routes from the slot in college. He was incredibly productive at North Carolina. Now, North Carolina is a spread, big time passing offense. He had 1,300 yards in his 2 years ago, and then followed up with 1,000 yards this past season in only 11 games compared to 13 the year before. So he was very productive, great twitchy route runner. I would have liked to see like 4.48. Listen, 4.48's not bad, but when you're that size, you got to be elite of the elite speed, and that's like slightly above average speed in this year's combine. I think I'm looking at that's like the 62nd percentile on wide receivers, so it's not super like. So I'm worried not that. Listen, I'm not opposed to drafting a strictly slot receiver. Like Cooper Kupp is mostly a slot receiver, right? And was all world 2 years ago. So, and it's getting paid a ton of money. So I'm okay drafting a slot guy. I just look at 171. Can he hold up with hits? I don't know. He's fearless and he'll give you everything he's got, but like, I just feel like there's a point in time at a 171, if you continue to get the ball a lot and are taking a lot of hits, you're bound to get injured at that size. And I wouldn't like if he goes in the second round. I don't like that pick at all. Like in my mind, he should be mid to late third at the highest. But we'll see. He'll probably go higher than that. But
yeah, but I mean, I do think that there are some shades of Elijah Moore here. I think there could be some. You get some good value. I mean, again, we've seen a lot of smaller guys get some production over the course of the NFL in the last few years, and I think that this is a draft. If you're looking for guys who could give you some, give you a slot on your offense that maybe can get one of those smaller dudes that can produce for you. This is that draft. Still not as small as Calvin Austin from last year's draft. Number 5, Jordan Addison. You want to talk about a skinny, small dude here? He's 5'11", so he's a little bit stretched out, but still 173 pounds, 4'9", 40. Straight out of USC, wide receiver at a USC. You got a player comp here to Darnell Mooney. Scotty, Jordan Addison, what do you got?
I struggle here. There are some draft pundits that have him as the number one wide receiver in this draft. Listen, he was the Biletnikoff winner in 2021. He transferred. He only played at USC his final year. He was at Pitt most of his career. Transferred over to USC. Wasn't quite as productive at USC as you would have thought he was going to be, because he was when he transferred, it was huge news. And obviously, he had a pretty damn good quarterback in USC to get him the ball. I'm just not sure he's so confusing to me because he seems to always be open, but I don't know how he gets open. Like, to me, he's not big, 5'11", 173. He's not at 4.49, he's not someone that's going to take the top off of defense. He's not that fast. He's not necessarily someone that's gonna break tackles. So he's not, that guy that's gonna do that in open space. I think whoever drafts this guy is gonna regret it. But at the same time, the dude was wildly proficient and wildly successful in college. So he found a way to get open all the time. Listen, when you're looking at the athletic profile on this guy, I don't see how he's going to be successful. He did only have 875 yards this year at USC, which is kind of, for him, that's a down year, in my mind. So I worry about him, but literally Daniel Jeremiah has him as his number one prospect. I've seen other boards that have him as the first wide receiver potentially going on draft day. I would not touch this guy with a 10-foot pole in the first round.
Yeah,
No way.
With his 59 receptions, 875 yards, and 8 touchdowns, played well overall. Some people think that he could sneak into the top 10 at his peak, and some others have him in the lower first round, going into the second round potentially. So there's a wide range of areas where Jordan can drop for this particular draft, but I think he has some instinctual playmaking, short area quickness, smooth footwork. His quickness is kind of what he leans on a little bit more, right? When it comes to route running after the catch creator, he uses his footwork, hand swipes to get off the line. And, he could try to create separation with sharp cuts and tries to get off early when it comes to just the snap. But I think he's a natural pass catcher. I think he's very good route running overall. I just think he's so thin. I think he gets knocked around a little bit. His bulk is where I worry about him a lot. He's just such where he's still in the grand scheme of things a little bit smaller. 5'11" is a little bit bigger than what you're looking for, but I just think that I think he gets bounced around by some of the corners in the NFL, the physicality off the line. Can he do that from a college and translate that to the pros? I don't know. I think that's the big question. So we'll see. But unfortunately, Steelers are a very obvious draft process. Devontae Smith 2.0 says Klept. I don't know.
I don't know. I think Devontae Smith is far superior.
I agree.
My opinion.
I don't think the press hurts this guy. He's a slot guy. No, every one of these guys is the same guy.
He is a slot guy, but
every one of these guys is a slot guy. Pretty much.
I like the production, but I want to see it. Just didn't show up in the athletic testing. It just wasn't there.
Yeah,
I don't know. We'll see. But
I
would not take him in the first round. For sure, there's some route running talent there, but
yeah,
to be a unathletic 5'11", 173-pound first round pick, no thanks.
No, and I guess that's where I have trouble with some of these guys. It's how high do you take undersized receivers that it's not really a big, deep wide receiver class? At what point do you say, all right, I guess we'll bite the bullet and jump in at some of these guys? Some of them stand out a little bit more than others, obviously, but this is a weaker wide receiver draft. There's a lot of undersized players. It's just, that's the theme. That's what we're talking about. And 6 foot, Jalen Hyatt, wide receiver out of Tennessee. A little bit taller, a little bit still
skinny.
Another skinny guy.
6 foot, 176.
It's almost similar to what we just saw at number 5. 4'4", 40. You got a Deshaun Jackson player comp here. And, Jalen Hyatt, Tennessee, the second Tennessee player that's made our top 8 here. Broke out in 2022. A lot of big plays for the Tennessee Volunteers. Put up a 207-yard, 5-touchdown game to upset Alabama, which that was kind of one of those memorable ones that you can remember from this past season. 67 receptions, 1,200 yards, and 18.9 yard average in that mix as well. 15 touchdowns. So he didn't have a lot of production in 2021 and 2020, though. So this was kind of the bigger year that he broke out. But not a big receiver. He has quickness. He's vertical threat. Some think he can be a one-trick pony, though, a little bit. Like, he's kind of, just fits into only certain schemes that doesn't really provide much else. What do you think here, Scotty? We think supposedly we got people targeting him around the second round, maybe early to mid-second round, down all the way through the third round. But yeah, second Tennessee guy.
I've seen people flirt with late first for him. Listen, I keep saying this. I'm not in love with Jalen Hyatt either. That's how I feel. Like, this wide receiver class. Some of the guys lower, I almost maybe like more, but I know some of these guys are going to go higher. And Jalen Hyatt, to me, is a bit of a one-trick pony in that he's the best deep threat in this draft. He's the best over-the-top guy. If that's strictly what you're looking for, he's the best guy in this draft for it. Elite speed, 4.4 speed. He's an athletic. Like we talk about, not athletes. He's elite at the 40. His vertical jump was 93rd percentile for wide receivers, and the broad jump 98th percentile. Like, the athleticism's there, good hands. You're right. He wasn't really productive until this season. So we'll see how that translates, and didn't do a ton of different routes, but he had the most touchdown catches of 40 plus yards in all of FBS last year with 7 40 plus yard touchdowns at Tennessee just last year. So he's your take the top off the defense guy. So if you want that guy, he's your man. Do I want to take that late first? Like, I've seen some people mention Kansas City. Obviously, Kansas City needs some wide receiver help, and I totally agree with that. I would not be excited about Jalen Hyatt. Like, I'd have to be talked into it if that were to happen on draft day. I wouldn't be excited, though.
Hyatt or Addison?
I think these top three to me separate themselves quite a bit from anyone else.
Agreed. Let's dive into those top three. We have Zay Flowers, which honestly, he's a smaller guy as well. 5'9" receiver out of Boston College, 182 pounds, 4.42 speed. He got some DeAndre Hopkins comparisons here. I am a little bit higher on Zay Flowers, but Scotty, why are you high on him?
No, I like Zay. Great quickness, great burst. Footwork's elite. 4.4 240, so he's quick there. DeAndre, honestly, another shades I've seen and people talk about is like Antonio Brown. Like, that's how good this guy potentially could be. And DeAndre Hopkins, obviously, phenomenal wide receiver. He's smaller than DeAndre Hopkins, but he's similar with great hands, route running, things of that nature. Is he a little more slot oriented than maybe a DeAndre Hopkins? For sure, but he's like a joystick, dude. He's the human joystick of this draft. He's what Jordan Addison and Josh Downs wish they could be. Like, a little thicker at 182, and still not huge, but at 5'9", he's thicker than Jalen Hyatt, who's 6 foot, and those other guys that were low 170s. And he's actually added a ton of muscle since he left Boston College. So he's worked his ass off. The work ethic is there. His only issue is, like, he's 5'9". He's just not a big guy, but everything else I've seen, I love about him.
Yeah.
Hopkins is 6'2".
He recorded 78 receptions, over 1,000 yards, and 12 touchdowns. Played well.
I think he can play. By the way, I think he can play on the outside.
I
don't think he's just. You could throw him in the slot, but I think he can play both.
Yeah, I'm big on him too. He's going under the radar a little bit. A number of team sources said they liked him and they're extremely intrigued by what he could bring. He is potentially going to go in the maybe mid to late first round, and then maybe even creep into the second, depending on things unfolding in the draft. But he's explosive. He gets off the line of scrimmage. He's fast. His acceleration is insane. Change of direction on a dime. He's very shifty with how he kind of fakes with his head, his shoulders to get the defense kind of like turned around a little bit, put him in that spin cycle. I mean, he's a very interesting player. And I think the biggest thing with him is the fact that he is undersized. He's a savvy route runner. He's exceptionally quick. He could be a day one contributor for any team that drafts him. And, you mentioned seeing him on the outside. I mean, honestly, you could kind of slot him a little bit of everywhere, right?
I've also seen a comp to Brandon Cooks.
Yep.
Which is pretty fitting as well.
Yeah. I think if you're a team that can, get to the bottom of the first round and you got Zay there chilling with you, you need some help at the wide receiver for one of your, your quarterback. I mean, I think any quarterback that gets Zay Flowers on their team is going to be feeling good.
I'd be much happier with Zay Flowers at the end of the first than I would Jalen Hyatt as a Chiefs fan.
Yeah. He could operate at all three levels when it comes to the next level of whoever drafts him. So, hey, keep an eye out for Zay. Zay out of Boston College. Let's see. How is his comp? Hopkins. LOL. Hopkins like 6'2".
Yeah. Outside of I understand the height difference, but there's a lot of similarities there.
Let's see. I don't think height is that much of an issue with wide receiver, especially if you're a speed guy. Hines Ward and AB were around 5'9". Okay. Number 2 on our list, we have Quentin Johnston with a T. Johnston. Wide receiver, TCU. One of the bigger receivers in this draft. 6'3", 208, 4'4", 40. And actually, I think I might have messed this graphic up, the player comp, because I think we have DeAndre on both. Yeah, I messed.
It was not. Who did? We had.
I think DeAndre Hopkins.
Oh, DeAndre Hopkins was for
Quentin Johnston.
For Quentin Johnston. Zay Flowers.
That's on
the
me.
Other one we had was Tyler Lockett.
Tyler Lockett.
I apologize.
Yeah.
No. Tyler Lockett. So Tyler Lockett, Antonio Brown, and who else did I say? I already forgot. Brandon Cooks for Zay Flowers. Quentin Johnston is the DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah. Sorry. That was a graphic mix up. We always have at least one. Quentin Johnston is coming in here. He is potentially one of the bigger names in this draft, if not the biggest, when it comes to the wide receiver side of things. He is a very, very strong player. He's going to most likely go in the first round. Good showing on the field, drills at the combine. He recorded 60 receptions, over 1,000 yards and 6 touchdowns. They're high on his skill set with, upside. Very, very high upside. Talented. Some have him similar to AJ Green, maybe a Julio Jones as well. But definitely not as talented as those players. Let's just, kind of put that out there. But still very, very good. Scotty, one of the bigger guys in the draft. What do you think about how he can make an immediate impact?
I mean, yeah, we focused on the little guys. This guy's 6'3", 208, 4'49", which at that size, I'm fine with a 4'49" when you're 208 pounds compared to these guys that are running 4'49s at 170. Obviously, he's got longer strides, more of a gazelle. He's great in open space. Chris, he's probably the best yak guy of these top guys as far as breaking tackles and getting to the next level of any of these guys. He's not as shifty, but he gets himself small. He can break tackles. Did it time and time again at TCU. Sorry. He showed up a ton in that semifinal against Michigan, had a dominant game there. I like Quentin Johnston's game a lot. I think like early on in this process, a lot of people thought he'd be the number 1 wide receiver in this draft, and I feel like people are starting to fade him. Like us having him at 2, I feel like a lot of people have him maybe 3 or 4 as far as wide receivers, but I like his game a lot. I don't know. I think he's going to be a game breaker at the next level. He's a little inconsistent at the catch point, a little sloppy with routes still, but TCU didn't ask him to run a ton of routes either. So he'll have to shore up his route running and his, consistency catching the ball and he's another guy that at times let it, get too close to his body and into his chest. So if he focuses though, he's gonna be a phenomenal DeAndre Hopkins type guy, T Higgins type guy, something like that.
Yeah, and he's a guy that, again, 3-year contributor to the Horned Frogs, got them to the national championship game. So I mean, he's definitely a guy that's seen the big time spotlight when it comes to what he's been able to contribute to those elite athleticism. Pretty fast. I think he's one of the, if you're looking at, again, a guy that's going to stand above the rest, especially physically, he's one of your guys that you're going to want to target at the top of the draft. So next up, number 1, Jackson Smith Njigba.
Good job.
Got it. Wide receiver, Ohio State, 6'1", 196, 4'4", 40, and we got a little player comp to, I don't know, a guy you might have heard of, Cooper Kupp. So yeah, this guy is he's going to be one of the top players taken from a wide receiver standpoint, if not the top. He is projected to go in the first round. 5 catches, 43 yards in 2022. I missed most of the season with a hamstring injury, so that's kind of why you didn't see a lot of production. But they love, especially teams across the league, have loved what he's put on tape. Barely playing in 2022. So, I think that a lot of his draft questionability comes with teams who maybe haven't been able to see him as frequently as they might have seen some of the other guys in this draft. But that doesn't change the fact that he's one of the better players. He's sure hands, short area quickness, very, very smooth footwork, but knack for getting open. He's tough in traffic, creates after the catch, very, very polished when it comes to those areas. But Scotty, what else do you like about him?
There's a lot to like about him. I mean, first of all, he went to wide receiver U, Chris. I mean, Ohio State just...
I mean, they pump him out,
delivers time and time again. This dude, as a freshman back in 2021, a redshirt freshman, was absolutely phenomenal. Like 95 catches, 1,600 yards. He led them, which he was in front of both Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave, who went in the first round at 10 and 11 last year to the Jets. Garrett Wilson, of course, being offensive rookie of the year. Chris, 2 years ago in that Rose Bowl game, he had 15 catches for 347 yards against Utah. Just unguardable. Does he have, his speed, straight line speed is 4.48, which isn't actually, I think, better than a lot of people thought he would run in the 40. I think that was people's biggest concern, is like he's not on film. You don't see like a track guy that's super, his only weakness is maybe just not long over the top speed. But as far as best route runner in this class, we've seen in the last 3, 4, 5 years. He doesn't waste any motion. He knows how to get open. He can beat man. He can beat zone. He's got great hands. The only question mark for him is like, does he have that elite speed? Sorry, elite seed. That's okay.
He might have that too.
What? But other than that question mark, I think he should be the number 1 drafted wide receiver. Again, I don't think he goes top 10. Maybe not even top 15, but he could certainly go in the top 15. But I expect him to go somewhere in the teens area on first round of the draft.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be one of the top there. Where's your mind, Scotty? By the way,
he might have some elite seed as well.
He might have some elite seed. ActionLab After Dark. Yeah, we're getting a little. I mean, it is getting later, so we can start opening up the content a little bit more,
And just like later on tonight, it's getting a little spicy.
Getting
spicy.
That's right. Scott
has had 3 elite seeds since Broncos beat the Chiefs. Yes. Oh, thank you. They are elite seeds. All 3 of my wonderful children, who have not had to witness ever at any point in their life the Broncos beating the Chiefs.
Speaking of elite seeds, we're on a roll here. Did you know that Zay Flowers has 13 siblings? He's one of 13.
No.
He's 12 siblings. He's one of 13. Or no, he has 13. He has 13 siblings. If you want a fun wormhole, there's another actually player in this draft. I can't remember who he was that has like 11 siblings or something. But Zay Flowers has a massive family. Just
let's just say it was pretty easy to take his mom's flower, Chris. Is that?
Oh,
see, that's not.
Hey.
No, cancel me. Ban me.
Ban.
Well, now you're banned.
Ban Scotty.
I'm sorry. It was there. You know, that's what came to mind.
Here we
Do
go.
you even know what it means to take a flower?
Oh,
Isn't that to like lose your virginity?
Here we
Yeah,
go.
yeah. So why would he take his mom's flower?
No, he's not taking his mom's flower. It was easy for someone.
Come on. All
It was
right. What are we?
inappropriate of me. That is no. That's on me. Come on now.
So real quick trivia: how many kids does Philip Rivers and his elite seed have?
This is getting weird. This is getting weird.
Philip Rivers has 9. 9?
Yeah,
I'm guessing.
Yes. How many did he have when he got drafted?
Is this like a trick question, like 0 or something? That would be difficult.
I'll say 0. I'm gonna say 0. He's a young kid. Not
Seems like
is
a
he
trick
married?
question.
He's not married yet, right? Maybe.
What?
He had 2.
Philip Rivers?
Was he married in college?
Oh,
yes,
Oh,
I
I
think
thought you meant
so.
like married now.
No.
I was like, what? It's all with the same.
I mean, at the end of his college career, if he's married, given I would say 0.
0. Let's go 0.
He had 2 kids when he got drafted.
What? That means he was.
I just thought it was a trick question or something.
Nope.
Trying to trip us up there.